Hey everybody, we are live and in living color. Welcome everybody. This is obviously not the last Raider related live stream, but it is the last Raiders live stream of the regular season, okay? For the 2019 season, which I think has been glorious. You all have been glorious and will continue to be. And I am pleased to have on as my special guest, our vlogger, Zenny62 vlogger, who did an outstanding job on Christmas Day in Las Vegas, unbeknownst to me, happily. Joseph Amenderis. Joseph, how you doing?
I'm good, Zenny. How are you?
I am well, thank you. And I want to publicly, before everybody else and all the people rolling in like Sean Watson and Patrick M. Blackman, John Marks, all the greats are here tonight, and the list is growing. I want to personally thank you for yeoman work out there, going to the stadium, giving us a view from your perspective of what's going on, and all sides, all sides, and physically all sides, and outstanding coverage. Hey, tell my viewers how that came about.
Well, like I said, I last minute a decision to go visit my niece and nephew, and one of the things I had to do, as you probably know, with some of my medical issues, I had to go take care of some of those things. And while I was there, I had some time before actually my medication has to heat up, right? So I go, let me take this opportunity. And I had about 30, 40 minutes. And I decided to go out to the stadium and film all its glory. Now, of course, that time I did film on Christmas Day, some of the areas are blocked off with cones. And I could easily went through that, but I know that Zenny has a policy of doing the right thing, not going out of bounds in terms of trying to get things that are covered by, blockades or something like that, because that's the last thing we want to do is represent you in that way by going over a fence or going to a secure location where we're not supposed to be.
Thank you.
So I did my best with what I had.
Yeah, I thought you did.
Go ahead.
No, I just was thank you. I said thank you very much for that. I said I thought you did it. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead. I was just thanking you.
No, but I would have easily did it if it was my channel, but since I'm representing you, you have to do the right thing.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Hey, so what did you think? Because last time I was at the stadium was CES for this year, and I'll see it I'll see next week. But what did you think of the stadium up close?
Well, the parts that were done seemed great. I mean, that glass tiling they have on the side. And of course, every time you see any press from the stadium, they're only showing that one particular side. Once you kind of do a 360 around the stadium, you actually see that there's a lot of work to be done. Now, what I was shocked about was, I think it was back in March, I had visited the stadium. It didn't look that much different. The only difference that I physically noticed was the tiling. From that south side that it took. Before that tiling wasn't there, it was just like a frame. But considering that they're supposed to open relatively soon, right? But by, I did theoretically about the draft, they wanted to have it fully completed, but they're so far behind, I think.
Oh, the draft is not related to the stadium at all.
No, but, you would think they would be done by then, but obviously not.
Yeah. Hey, so I want to make a comment on that too, because I'm going to pick that up later. The Jedi Rich and Jedi Joy have posted on 26th of this month, a blockbuster entry that accuses Mitch Akers and Rich Villada of the Las Vegas Review-Journal of engaging in a cover-up. Okay? Their words, not mine. I will show it to you. I'll read it to you. Regarding information related to the roof issue for Las Vegas Allegiant Stadium. Also, I want to tell you something else. Folks, this Las Vegas Stadium is behind schedule. This is not a matter of debate. It is a matter of fact. And the reason I state this so emphatically is that I uncovered the original stadium schedule, construction schedule, for Las Vegas Stadium that was issued in 2017. And among other things, I'm not going to go into a deep dive here for purposes of the information I want to put out, and the fact that I want to drill back down to the Raiders season and the NFL season, talk playoffs and some fun stuff, right? But I must tell you right now, okay? Hey, Rob Iman, that the cable net roof that is still hanging in place was supposed to have been up and in place originally, okay? Originally on the 8th of August of this year. Understand that? The 8th of August of this year. So you need to be mindful of that. And hey, this thing is way behind schedule. It is so far behind schedule that anybody who says it's on schedule is not. The minute they say that, they're not telling the truth. And if they're using a screen name that is not their real name, or you don't know who they, or you don't know who they really are, you can't see their face and everything else, right? They may very well be assisting in what Jedi Rich and Jedi Joy allege is an overall cover-up. I'll get to that later. Hey, so Joseph, let's shift gears right now and talk about the season. And I want to congratulate Raiders head coach John Gruden on overall doing better than he did the year before, because I remember when I interviewed him along with the rest of the press corps at the NFL annual meeting this year, I said, so assess the season. He said, well, we're 4-12. Well, this time, the Raiders are not 4-12. They are 7-9. And they were just a hair from 8-8. And they could have walked in the we could have walked in the playoffs with 8-8 had the Texans done their job and beat the Titans, but that didn't happen. As it was, maybe the Raiders were done a bit of a favor, considering the heavy problems they had in terms of defense, right? In terms of injuries. They had a lot of injuries. They really tested their depth. Even guys like Josh Jacobs were hurt. Maybe there's a chance you get them back. But they really got banged up this year, and they really did. And so I think John said that. What did he say here? Here's a comment that he made.
The ball down, but we felt we had momentum on our side, and given the injuries that we had, it would have been tough on us in overtime to keep playing.
To move the ball like you did in the first half,
and then it was just terrible. I mean, we had a great opening drive. I thought we had Renfro wide open for a look. We didn't convert that, and then we missed a short field goal. And then we had a touchdown to Renfro called back by our friend in New York. And then I thought we scored. I thought we were in on Ingles' play. So that's a zilch. And
yeah.
Then we had a drive where we settled for a field goal. But a good defensive team. Fangio's good. They got good players.
I want to give John also credit for this, because he didn't say this to open his press conference. He probably didn't have a chance to look at the stats. But we got to tell it like it was. The Raiders outgained the Denver Broncos by about double. The Raiders amassed 477 yards of total offense. The Broncos 238 yards of offense. So you got to say, hats off to producing a defensive effort off of that old stinko. Remember that effort where they gave up about something like 600 yards to New York Jets? I think it was. Was it the Jets or the Chiefs? I think it was the Chiefs that gave up almost 600 yards of total offense too. It wasn't funny. And it's clear that the Raiders were better prepared for a team that was interested in exacting revenge to begin with, and going out the season on a high note. And so, yeah, the Broncos did do that, but they only did it by 1 point. What are your thoughts, Joseph Almenduras?
Well, the disappointing loss, I think looking at the overall record, I think, remember, if you, during the prediction show we had, I think right after the draft, I think you were very close to that record. I actually hit it right on the head. Unfortunately, I wish I was wrong. but I thought because of the schedule that they were going to have a hard time in some of the games, and I did predict 7-9. With regards to this game, I honestly thought they should have went for just 1 point so that we can try to pull it off in overtime.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why I thought that, because throughout the game, or even during halftime, when some of the news reporters said that, or even John, even after the game, that they're somewhat playing handicap because of the personnel they had. Having said that, why would you go for 2 points?
Yeah,
I would, because John typically plays it safe, so I'm surprised he decided to take a risk in the last seconds of the fourth quarter when he knew very well that he could have tied the game and take it over to OT. So it is better than last year. It's almost like we make that comparison. It was better than The Last Jedi, but not as good as Force Awakens. In other words, 2016 was a great year. 17 was whatever. 18 was The Last Jedi version of football. And this one was, again, and I compare that to this, it was satisfactory, but still, I still left a little bitterness in my mouth because I thought we could have done a lot better. But compared to last year, I mean, this was a very good season.
I think what I like about the Raiders' last 2 games is that they seem to be aware of making in-game adjustments. The problem I have overall with this season is very much similar to the problem I had with the way the Falcons rebounded that caused Dan Quinn and Thomas Dimitrioff to keep their jobs. And I'm not saying they should have been fired. Although I did predict that the Falcons were going to be the bottom basement team, and I was pretty much right. Well, sort of. But I digress, is that the Raiders were a game off of that game that they could have adjusted to win that would have gotten them into the playoffs even as a wild card. And so I know John wants to win. The reason why I say that is because he will use any idea that's good. And I'm reflective of that. He used an idea this year that I gave him at the NFL annual meeting last year. If you remember against the Chargers, early on there was this play where Rico was on a swing pass. Actually, no, it was a swing pass, a circle route. Not a circle route, but a wheel route out of a jet sweep. He was wide open. Well, the way the play was designed, there were 2 variations of it. The first variation had him as number 1 receiver. And I told John when I gave him the plays, because there's also a running play that's attached to it, that's a crossbuck that he used that Marshawn Lynch ran for 60 yards and a touchdown to open the preseason against the Rams his first year. Anyway, this year he used that play that I'm talking to you about, with a swing against the Chargers, but they threw to the tight end coming across on what's kind of like a shovel pass, and that's not the guy that you throw to when you're playing man for man and you've got the cornerback up close. My point is, the details aside, John wants to win, and he's looking for any edge he can get. So fans, you have play ideas out there. Don't be shy. Don't be the casual person that sits back there and just criticizes, right? Send the play in. Give them plays. I'm telling you, I am an example. He will, if he likes your play, he will use it. Just have logic to it. Because I told John, I said, hey, look, you got to run this in 1.2 seconds. I say, you got what I'm saying? Is I got it. I say, you sure? He said, I got it. Because I'm like that. I mean, the thing about it is that he and I are a lot alike in terms of how we talk to people. So it's very easy to talk to him. So it's, that's just, some people are just wired that way, okay? My point is, if you're going to be a fan all the way. Help the Raiders win. Now, some of you were saying, hey, look, what are you talking about? They're leaving Oakland and all this. You know what? Here's the deal, okay? They may be back. And I say that because, and Joseph has said it, a number of people have said it, that stadium's got problems. The Raiders are, they have 9 founding partner sponsors. They need 12 by Oakland Raider president Mark Burdane's own statement. Okay, so we have to straighten them out. Let me go back and read the comments. Hey, by the way, Joe, since you're watching it, if you see comments that are interesting, break in if you want to read something, by the way. But I'm going to go down, and I don't want to get too far ahead of me. You want to break in with anything? Any thoughts you got, Joe?
Just based on what you said, I think you probably said it all. Well, I was my thoughts are actually thinking about what you said about Rich Velada. He's part of the Las Vegas Journal, correct?
Yeah, he's Las Vegas Journal. Yeah, Las Vegas business expert.
Now,
and I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that
okay.
to be kidding. He is. He's. This side is separate. I have a lot of respect for Rich Velada from the view of Las Vegas business and history and gambling and casinos and gambling. It's just that they have not handled this whole situation with the Raiders Stadium at all well. But go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, what that I always believe in. There's to a certain degree conspiracy theories because the Journal, if I'm correct, is owned by Adelson.
Yeah.
And if Adelson has this sour note against the Raiders, why would they be in conjunction trying to not report the truth? In other words, why would the Journal be on the side of the Raiders or part of their PR? Would it just be financial gain, or do you think there's something underhanded behind it?
No, I think it's a sign to me that Adelson is still involved, because I remember after the February 26, 2017 date where Adelson said, "I'm out of here." Okay. He said after that, just double checking, it was February 26th, February 26, 2017, review, Journal, Adelson Raiders. Just want to see what pops up. And let's see here. But it was Adelson. Yeah, here it is. Adelson's withdraw investment from proposed Raiders Stadium in Las Vegas, and that date was, I want to subscribe here, was, scrolling down, January 30th. January 30th, 2017. I stand corrected. It wasn't February 26th. And it says the family of Las Vegas Sands Corporation Chairman and CEO Sheldon Adelson has withdrawn his investors from a proposed $1.9 billion stadium. He said a statement issued late Monday, Adelson said his family, quote, will no longer be involved. Hey, Chi, thank you for the investment. By the way, I got some news for you later, but I'm not going to broadcast it here. I need you to send me an email to Zenny62, just with your email, so I can tell you what's going on. All right? But I digress. Zenny at Zenny62.com. In a statement issued late Monday, Adelson said his family will, quote, no longer be involved in any facet of the stadium discussion. And he said it was he was surprised by the Raiders' submission of a proposed lease agreement, and it sent shockwaves through our community. And the Raiders basically shot back by saying the Raiders deeply appreciate the efforts of the Adelson family to bring the Raiders to Las Vegas. We know this project could not have advanced to this point without them. The Raiders remain steadfast in honoring Mark Davis' commitment to Governor Brian Sandoval and the state of Nevada to pursue relocation to Las Vegas. All right. And then, of course, there was skepticism of Goldman Sachs and all that. Now, 4 months after the appearance of what I just read to you, it was nothing but bad coverage about the Raiders and stadium situation from the perspective of the Review Journal. Then, after 4 months, something happened, because there was this miraculous messaging turnaround that has taken us to this day. So I go with this. Adelson's in the background, but what I believe is happening is that Adelson understands that the stadium is good for it's not only that it's good for Las Vegas, but I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Sheldon Adelson has had a 1,000-year war against the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Bureau because because being an ultra conservative guy, not ultra in that he's an alt right kind of guy or anything like that. No, he's a classic conservative that believes in private sector big business. He objects to the enormous amounts of money that the Nevada and Clark County public sector have poured into the convention business, which also impacts him, he feels, negatively. I would counter that for facilities that have hosted like the upcoming 2020 CES Las Vegas, for which Zenny62 Media has been credentialed for its 10th straight year as press, all right? I would argue that the bigger CES gets with all the facilities that the state and the county pay for, the more people run through his privately owned Las Vegas, Sands Expo, all right? That's another story. But with the Raiders, Adelson saw a way to win the 1,000-year war. It's something he'd been at since he had Comdex there, which Comdex really became CES, okay? This is something Mr. Adelson's been after for a long, long time. And what he successfully did was he successfully curbed the use of public funds for the for the convention center expansion. There is, and it's baked into Senate Bill 1. If you want to consider yourself knowing the Las Vegas stadium situation, you need to know Senate Bill 1 chapter and verse. If you don't, there's a lot about this project that's going to fly by you, and you're not going to understand if I say something like, hey, they should have enacted tax increment financing as it was the case in the original proposal, because you're going to say, huh, what? No, I'm telling you, folks, read stuff, because I find a lot of people today don't read. And I don't mean the headlines, I mean the in-depth stuff, okay? Read, or if you want me to explain something, read and say, Zinni, I don't understand this, can you explain it? Delighted, all right? But I digress. My point is this. Look, there are people in Vegas, as a friend of mine, who I'm not going to use the name, he says, Vegas likes to get you a little bit pregnant. And there are people who are basically sitting around watching to see what he's going to do. Riddle me this. If you know this answer, Joseph, I'd love to hear it. How many casinos have put any money into this? Do you know?
Well, besides the sponsorship, I don't think any.
Nobody. Okay? Right. I mean, the only people you've had, Caesars, they're waiting for the Supreme Court ruling. And they poured money into this. They're a founding partner sponsor. You have an Indian gaming organization out of California, San Miguel. Samuel. I don't want to mispronounce the name. Can you help me, please?
San Manuel.
San Manuel, thank you. Which I think was a path-breaking, ingenious, and outstanding deal the Raiders made with an organization that would have been passed by somebody else for reasons that are essentially racist. Okay? Let's just get on the board with that, because we're talking Indian gaming, not the standard. But the simple fact of the matter is that the casinos that we know of didn't put their money in. So you have people still kind of watching like vultures to see what happens with this. And it's almost as if they're trying to wait to see if the Raiders are going to be choked out in the way, because the Raiders have so much responsibility. That's how it looks to me. Because the state could have turned around and said, you know what? We'll allow the tax increment financing zone, even though Adelson says he's going to put money into it. Because what happened was Adelson said, we don't need all that money. We don't need the involvement of Craig Cavalier and Majestic Development Company. And so they were out, all right? We don't need David Beckham. All right, remember all the people that were involved originally? Now they're out. It was just Las Vegas Sands and the Raiders. And now we see why they did it, because they thought they were going to get a percentage.
Mm-hmm.
And when they got a hold of the lease, they realized, hey, they're not in it at all. Mark was trying to cut them out of the deal. So there's still, as is obvious by the fact that there's so many problems, there's not enough money to get them out of jams such that there would have never been a need for a mechanics lien lawsuit. Okay, if Adelson had been involved in writing checks, that would have not been necessary. All right. So, hey, by the way, monitors, do your job. Thank you. You're doing your job. Thank you. So anyway, I think, to answer your question, I think that answers your question right there. Hey, let's read some of the comments before we do too far. John Mark says, hey, welcome, John Mark. Sean Watson, how you doing? Patrick and Blackman, peace to you. And Rob Iman, how you doing? Richard Carson, how you doing? Welcome. Manny Flo is here. Manny Flo says, cover up. The geek freak is back. How you doing? Sean, Geek Freak, be nice, so Sean Marks will cut you. Not Sean Marks, but Sean Marks, rather. Manny Flo says, so do you think the Raiders are going to draft a quarterback next year? I would say they should. They should have drafted one this year. Backup. There's, they had Lamar Jackson sitting there. They could have went after him, last year, the year before that, rather. Imagine that. Imagine Lamar Jackson with the Raiders. Woo. At any rate, Rob Iman says, I think the Raiders need a number one wide receiver more than a QB. Rob Iman says, I think a lot of positives out of Carr this season, that if you give him a Jerry Jeudy, he won't be doing as many checkdowns. Black Lion Supreme, interesting point. Black Lion Supreme says, one love, Oakland Raider Nation. I guess this will be the last time I'll be able to say Oakland Raider Nation. Nah, not so fast. I would not get into the media hype about that. Remember, they've been wrong before, okay? And Cowboy Wrestler comes out with the one, he says, the Raiders are straight up garbage, simple as that. John, I'm sorry. As much as I disagree with that, it gave me pure joy to read it. Oh my God. Wow. John Lewis, famed congressman, has been diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Prayers for him, folks. All right. It's a little bit of a news there. All right. Hey, Cowboy. Hey, everybody. Black Lion says one love. Cowboy Wrestler says it's been a while to John Marks. Hennessy is here. Kenny G says next stop for the Niners is going home. They see the Seahawks again. Chi says Greg Olson, Gunther, and Carr have to go. I'm over it. I'm over. That's what he says. Cowboy Wrestler says, I think we're going to see a Seahawks 49er game. I think so too. And then Chi says, agree, Kenny. 49ers got away. Seattle will avenge. That was a great game. My God, that was a great game, man. John Mark says maybe. Chi says, okay, Zinni62 about the message I sent earlier. Or Bob Iman says, Niners will have D Ford and Tart back for the playoffs. Juan Ramirez, how you doing, buddy? Evening, how you doing? He says, evening, family. I say evening. John Akala says, hello. Hey, John. John writes, any chance Raiders announce their intentions for 2020 season, whether to opt in or out, or at least before an April 1st deadline? I'm sure there's a chance, but knowing the Raiders, they're not going to do it. And I think given what is going on with the stadium, I think it'd be very foolish for them to do so unless they have an ironclad proof or way of ensuring that these problems are going to be solved. Because keep in mind, the Raiders, the roof, they're not going to be able to start on it or resume work on it until after, I believe, the 3rd week of April. Okay? So I said resume work. I didn't say finish it. I said resume work. That means get the cable net sealing in place, make sure the bolts make sure it's able to handle that stress, all right, when they finally put it up into place. And then not only that, if you take a look at the side of the stadium that Joseph Amendora's photographed that was empty, what'd you think about that empty side there, Joseph?
Well, initially I thought, why isn't it finished? That's the main thing you think about. And, some interesting news, I guess, transition a little bit. I guess the Al Davis torch is supposed to be there, but now I hear it's not going to be lit by anybody. That it's going to be automatically like a 3D effect.
Right, I saw
and
that headline.
The tradition of somebody lighting that will no longer take place.
Yeah, I think, I have to admit I didn't think about how they were going to do that, but I believe what they're aiming for is a more, how do I say it, um, Vegas production. So I haven't read.
Using technology, basically.
Say again, please.
Using technology, basically.
Yeah, because they're up against MSG Sphere and its gigantic, great digital immersive projection system. So I think that the Raiders are producing the stadium in terms of its entertainment with an eye toward it being at least to what extent it can be competitive with what's going on at MSG. Now, riddle me this. You know the answer to this question? Who's building MSG, Joseph?
Who's building MSG?
Yeah, MSG.
Well, I would say Don Webb.
No.
Okay.
It is Madison Square Garden in partnership with Las Vegas Sands and Sheldon Adelson.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right. So Adelson is basically sitting back, and he's built what I call the Death Star, because people call the Raiders Stadium the Death Star in Vegas. I call MSG Sphere the real Death Star because it's the facility that threatens to rob a number of large events from Las Vegas Stadium. Adelson didn't get involved in that by accident. He got involved in that to help screw the Raiders deal. I firmly believe that. Okay? I really believe that. He wanted to just tweak it financially just enough so that he could basically push the Raiders into being bought by the Las Vegas casino industry. That's my personal hypothesis, which is an educated guess based on study. Let me continue to read the comments before we get too far down there. And Dale Jr. says, was today the last game Derek Carr starts as Raider QB? Ooh. I wonder. I don't think so. I would be surprised if it were. Black Lion says, no, I can't. And I'll tell you why. Black Lion says, no, I can't. I believe Carr will be back. It's on him whether we don't have any wideouts. I don't think. Look, he is the face the Raiders have carried into Las Vegas. And regardless of whether they wind up successfully doing something this year or definitely in 2021. If it's 2021, maybe. But I can't see them walking into Las Vegas without him as the face of the Raiders. They would have to give him up for some quarterback that would be such a game changer, okay, that it would have led to such a decision. Let's say Clemson's Trevor Lawrence decides to come out a year early, and so he's available for in 2021, and the Raiders are able to get him either by poor record or by trade. Maybe then, right? But that's the only way I see something like that happening. So we've got Jamal Mills. How you doing? Jamal says, hello, Z, and hello, all. Hope you had a great Christmas. I have had a fantastic Christmas. And John Call adds, Raiders have found another Edelman in the form of Hunter Renfrow. He's only going to get better, I agree. And Cowboy Rest says, prayers to Congressman Lewis. Woodbeast says, Ravens will kick all the butts. I agree with you, man. The question, that's going to be the question is, how far they go and what happens. Cowboy Rusher says, I think it's safe to say that the Seahawks 49er rivalry is back. I agree. Patrick M. Blackman adds, Henry Whistle, Kenneth Murray, Sean Wade, QB, free agent linebacker. Rob Iman says, if the Cardinals get some defensive pieces, watch out, Kyler Murray is the future. I agree with you. I really agree. If I'm not convinced that the Arizona Cardinals' problem is in defensive personnel so much as it is scheme. And I contend if their game plan could have been much better this year, they may very well have found themselves in the playoffs as a wild card. And so Kenny G added something which I'm going to get to in a second because he invested. And Arturo Grano says Raiders need a middle linebacker, wide receiver, and a cornerback. Carr, he writes, needs to stay put. I agree. Raiders in Vegas will be better for the franchise. I agree with you. Positive vibes, Denver. I think once the Raiders get the money going in terms of this flow, and they need to improve the sponsorships because look, as much money as they're gaining, they have to spend it out too. So they've got some money problems there. They need to address head on, and they need to go to the legislature and say to the legislature, no, we need to put tax increment financing back in. We had it out, we had it in, you took it out, we need it back. They need to really focus on that, or it's going to be a lot of sweat and bullets for Mark Davis and company if they don't. Okay. Positive Bias says Bronco Country. Black Lion says, why haven't we heard a word from UNLV? That's a great question because UNLV's got 3 games, away games that they're very concerned about. Okay, and they've got UNLV also, I believe, has been treated like a stepchild in all this. Hey, what are your thoughts? Did you see any markings about UNLV when you were hanging around the stadium there, Joseph?
None at all. It's funny you say that. I almost forgot they're supposed to play there as well because there is zero talk and zero signage.
Oh my God, that's bad. So what do you think would happen if UNLV at the last minute decided, we're going to pull and we're going to go to the legislature, which they could do?
That'd be interesting.
My point is, and I do believe there's kind of a weird part of the legislature that is such that UNLV could call foul on the treatment within if they coldly follow the language of Senate Bill 1, they could raise a few issues regarding stadium preparation, signage. The cost factor they wouldn't, because they worked that out, they wouldn't have a big deal about. But in the other wild card, I don't know the answer to this question. It's not really something that technically is in black and white in legislation, but they can make an argument that Raiders are violating good faith language in the legislation by saying, hey, look, if this is the case, I'm not saying this, I have proof this is the case. I'm speculating. If UNLV has not been completely informed of every problem. And so here they are trying to make different deals with sponsorships and everything, vendors, and they don't know exactly what's going on because maybe the Raiders, if the Raiders are telling them one thing and something is different, that could be a major issue. I hope for the Raiders case, they're not doing that. Raiders are Stadco. They're the stadium corporation. UNLV is not. So UNLV is in a position of being handicapped in the entire situation that I think if they had to do it all over again, they would have asked for better representation as Stadco with some backing by the state, right? So, I know if I were called in as assistant athletic director, the first thing I would look at is that agreement, and I would say, hey, look, can we go back to the legislature on this, this, and this? And I would raise the issue just to gain their attention, and I would do it. If I didn't have the Raiders' attention, I would push it. Of course, I would have the permission of the university to do that, right? But I would push it because from the outside looking in, it looks to me like UNLV is being treated like a poor stepchild. Okay, period out. And all right, so there you go, Black Lion. And Positive Vice says, how many more losses till they fire John Gruden or whatever his name is? Well, that's his name. I would say they get to Vegas, Gruden gets his house, maybe another couple of years. If it doesn't work out after year 5, they change, okay? If he doesn't produce a winning season. He almost had one. Jamal Mills says, that's the question, Black Lion. Why have UNLV not said anything? And hey, I got through all the comments. I did. No, wait a minute. Okay, here. All right. Kenny G writes, I'm going to highlight this one because I think this is a fantastic question. Hold on a second. Kenny G writes, with Vegas' reputation of being a party town, I think Carr is the right guy to take the Raiders to Nevada, but it was a very sad day in the Bay. I agree. I agree with you. I agree. And, Rob Ivan says, we'll see if the Broncos are sold this offseason. Yeah, that's a conversation worthy of a separate live stream regarding them. Hey, okay, let's go with predictions. First of all, let's start with the NFL playoffs, and let's talk about who's in. And this is where we go back to the NFL Game Center, and we go to playoff picture. And right now, the playoff picture looks like this. As by the way, Zenny 62 Media has been credentialed for week of game festivities at the 54th Super Bowl in Miami. So I'm proud to say, yeah, that's the second time that's happened. The first time was Super Bowl 50 in the Bay Area. This time it's Super Bowl 54 in Miami. Very excited. Very excited. Now, divisional rounds, AFC January 11th and 12th. We've got the Ravens playing. They're the first seed. They play the lowest. Here, let me just take you through this visually so you can see it, right? Here, okay? The Ravens play the lowest winning seed from the AFC wildcard round. The Chiefs play the highest winning seed from the wildcard round. Now, let's look at that. The wildcard round features the Titans, the 6th seed, versus the Patriots. And then the Bills, the 5th seed, versus the Texans. Okay? So let's say that the Titans beat the Patriots, all right? That means, okay, that means they would play the Ravens. So it would be the Titans playing the Ravens in a rematch. And then, of course, if the Patriots win, the Patriots would get the Ravens in a rematch. All right? Rob Iman's predicting that the Titans will pull the upset. Now, on the other side, it's the Chiefs laying around waiting. Thank you to the Miami Dolphins. As Andy Reid himself said, the Bills take on the Texans in Houston. And I'm going to call this the Bob McNair Bowl for the Texans, all right? Late Bob McNair. The Bills, if they happen to win, as they would then have beaten the Texans as the 4th seed. So basically, I think I misread this. The Ravens are the first. Okay, so if the Patriots win, they would play the Chiefs. That's how that would go. Yeah, so the Patriots, being the 3rd seed, will go to play the Chiefs because the Chiefs get the highest winning seed from the AFC wildcard round. All right? And because if the Bills win, the Bills will play the Ravens. So that would be a rematch. Oh, the Ravens would kill the Bills. Forget it. The Ravens just kill the Bills. I mean, the Ravens beat the Bills in Buffalo, but the Ravens just kill the Bills in Baltimore. I mean, just no way, man. That wouldn't be a fair fight. The Texans, if the Texans beat them, being the 4th seed, okay, they would go and play the Ravens, and, that would be an interesting fight. So there you go. Now, moving over here to the NFC, we have the 49ers, and the Packers. God, I wanted the Raiders over here, didn't you? Man. Anyway, rats. Oh, God. Gives me a bellyache that's not happening. At any rate, the Vikings versus the Saints. The mighty ones, unbelievably, are in the playoffs as a wild card. But the Saints have to be. I think the Saints should be regarded as really the better team. Saints clobber Vikings. All right, but they don't get the Niners yet. That would be here. Okay, you've got, if the Eagles beat the Seahawks, then the Eagles would get the Niners. That would be an interesting game. Now, if the Eagles fall to the Seahawks, then we get a rematch here, right? Okay. Meanwhile, all right, you've got the Saints going to the Packers, and I'm sorry, I can't see the Packers beating the Saints. I can't, okay? Now, if the Vikings happen to beat the Saints, right? Then the Vikings would go and play the Niners, and then the Seahawks and the Eagles would play one of those would play the Packers. The Packers are, I think the Packers have a better chance of beating the Eagles than the Seahawks. Myself, that's just based on style of play. I don't know, what do you think, Joseph Binsman? What do you think about it?
Amadeus.
I'm Endurance. Why did I call you Joseph Binsman? I did that twice. That's the second time I've done that. Sorry.
It rolls off the tongue easier.
Oh, plus both of you are major contributors, I think, is the other thing, in your different ways. So sorry about that. At any rate.
Well, the two things that pop out of me with the Saints and the Seahawks is they potentially going to have two former Raiders playing in the playoffs.
That's true. Elaborate on that.
With Brown,
yeah,
and Marshawn Lynch.
Yeah.
Now, interesting enough,
how about
Marshawn?
How about Marshawn scoring the touchdown, man? I thought he was going to get the game winner until he screwed up. And I gotta just get this in because it really bothered me. I was telling my mom, I said, because mom was saying what happened, and I said they had a delay of game because originally they went in their pass package and the crowd was booing because Marshawn wasn't in there. So I was like, oh my God, we forgot Marshawn. So in all of that, they put in Marshawn and got the delay of game. How stupid not to have Marshawn Lynch in your goal line package to begin with. It's like, what are you thinking? I mean, it should be like drinking water. Unbelievable. They might get another shot at him too. But at any rate, okay, I'm sorry, Joseph, you were saying?
No, so like I said, the interesting part about Marshawn and Brown is the article that I read was the Saints had asked Brown to come without an entourage, and the first thing he did was bring his entourage. And a lot of people felt this was a test by the Saints to see if he would follow directions, to see if he would comport himself in a certain way. Whether or not that's a valid point on behalf of the Saints, who knows? But I found that little tidbit interesting at the very least.
It's funny how there are people who take the two arguably most valuable players in the NFL
and throw them through hoops. Put them through
hoops. And I said just like that. And they made Colin Kaepernick and Antonio Brown jump through hoops. Look, Colin Kaepernick alone is worth $2 billion to a franchise. The simple fact that Colin Kaepernick is out there, not signed up, and yet able to make so much money for Nike. Can you imagine if a team had signed Kaepernick and created this shoe, okay? Kaepernick shoe. Let's say the Raiders did it. Let's say the Raiders signed Colin Kaepernick. Oh, the jerseys would be flying out off the shelves. Computers would be spinning wildly on the internet. Money would be just changing hands left and right. And the Raiders could make enough money to pay for their Vegas stadium cost overruns and it's like that, okay? Easily. And yet, they do this. It's not mind-boggling to me, it's disappointing. And it is evidence of the fact that the NFL, at the end of the day, is largely a group of mom and pops, but they're billionaire mom and pops. Because mom and pops, when people use the term mom and pop for business, the implication is that they are angels and devils on their shoulders making decisions, that they're not making decisions, with the cold analysis of cash flow and cash balance, that they're doing it with some idea that, oh, hey, people don't want to hear about this race stuff or whatever. And it's a miscalculation. As per you wanted evidence that it is, take a look at The Force Awakens and how it mishandled race with respect to Finn and how it's really hurt them at the box office. So you can't evaluate an NFL team that has, or NFL situation where you have a positive racial role model and then say you want to, not include that person. That's Colin Kaepernick. Antonio Brown is worth almost as much. Now, is he a positive example? The answer is no. All right. But when you get him on the field, does he produce? Yes. All right. There is no question but that Antonio Brown is one of the best wide receivers of his age. I mean, his generation. No question at all. Okay? So,
and, with regards to Colin Kaepernick,
yeah.
The reason why he's not signed is because he represents a threat to the system. This guy could not be bought. He stuck his ground. He has his beliefs, and nobody was going to shake him away from that.
Yeah, but here's the thing,
to
though.
the NFL or the powers that be, he's a threat because he controls his own destiny, and he's not letting that whole, master-slave mentality of them controlling him.
But here's the point, though, all right? He's worth $2 billion to a franchise. If you sign him and money...
They will come.
Right. Okay, so anybody who thinks that, I think Eric Powell said that the NFL would lose fans, the NFL would not lose fans. All right? Maybe the NFL will maybe the NFL will replace a fan base that needs to be replaced. You hear what I'm saying? We're getting to that point in society. Okay? I mean, there's money in Asian, Latino, Black, multiracial, interracial community. People who know how to mix. There's money there too. Don't think that all the money is on one side. The money's everywhere today. And so the NFL can't afford to conduct itself from a business perspective like it has with Colin Kaepernick. That is too much money. He commands too much money, and you say he'll do what he wants. What he wants to do is just. He is pointing to a problem that needs to be addressed, and that is police misconduct and brutality against Black men in particular who come from neighborhoods that many NFL players come from. All right? And the NFL, and I've talked about this with the league, and the league is in a tough spot because it has African-American players, a growing, well-moneyed African-American culture, all right? It has a growing, well-moneyed interracial culture to deal with. It can't just say, well, we just have the president, because even the president understands that in order to keep his job, he's got to adjust to the new America. The new America is wonderfully mixed. The new America is the truth about all of us. We're all, mixed in different ways, okay? We really are. And so, a great announcement. Oakland Councilman Dan Kalb has agreed to allow me to interview him. So he's running for re-election in District 1. Thank you, Dan. Just texted. At any rate, Dan's a great guy. At any rate, the point I was making after I got that text move that came through on the ding is that Kaepernick represents that. Now, Antonio Brown, he's got to clear some problems, no question about it. He represents something that the league doesn't want to address itself with. I'm concerned that Antonio Brown may have a CTE problem, and I think he needs to get the appropriate help for it. And I don't know how they're working with him on that. And I don't know if they're using this other matter to hold him out from the real big issue. In whatever case, I'm quite worried about where he is mentally. Okay? And now that said, I'll go back to say this. I think the Raiders made a mistake in letting Brown go. And I think Mike Mayock made a mistake in the way he handled him. And I know there are people out there who don't agree with it, but I'll say this again. And maybe, Joseph, you have a different view. But my point is this. Look, you've got a guy out there who he's special. So you're going to pay him $30 million. That right there, that action says that he is the big man on campus, that he's the person that you're going to treat special. So you can't bring in the big man on campus and then say you have to be like everybody else. That doesn't make any sense. So you have to make a choice. If you want the big man on campus, you got to adjust. What are your thoughts, Joseph?
Well, I would agree to this respect. I think that an elite player like that for all intents and purposes, who has done everything humanly possible to get himself in shape, to go all out in his work ethic, affords himself certain opportunities that maybe other players who are just coming up don't have. I mean, that's just like, as you pointed out, that's just the way it is. For example, you're going to pay somebody to be the guy. That guy is going to take advantage of that, but more than likely he's paid his dues. Hey, if I'm 1 minute late, okay, cut me some slack. Or if I want to do my thing on the side because this is what's taking me to this point, go ahead and let him do it.
Yeah.
I mean, you had an opportunity to have him. They let him go. Now, I think it has to do with a lot of personalities. I think Mike Mayock, like we talked about this on your show, was I think part of him is insecure about the job title that he has, being that it's his first year there. He felt like I'm going to have to put my stamp or kind of put my flag on this whole thing and make it mine. And I think he chose the wrong person to do it with. They knew going into this, his personality. They did their own due diligence in terms of contacting Mike Tomlin and his staff. And so they knew what they were getting. So having said that, they should have been prepared, and they seemed like they weren't prepared. And that's the impression I got.
No, I agree with you. I said it before. I'll say it again. For me, I mean, I wasn't one of the ones saying, "Oh, go after Antonio," but I thought if the Raiders get him, it would be huge. It took me by surprise they're going after him. I still maintain that they should have had Cortland Sutton or any of the young wide receivers coming out. Look at A.J. Brown, man. Woo! A.J. Brown with the Titans has had a monster year as a rookie. Can you imagine if the Raiders had gotten A.J. Brown with Josh Jacobs, excuse me? Oh, your future, your offensive future intact. Okay.
Now we have to get the Clemson wide receiver, Etienne?
Yeah. So, but the whole point is, will we? We'll see.
We'll
see what. Well, yeah. All right. See. All right. Let's get the comments in here.
Real quick, we didn't touch about Marshawn Lynch. So I thought when Jacobs went down and Marshawn was still wanting to play, the nod to Marshawn would have been, let's sign him for at least 2 or 3 more games.
Right.
So he ends his total career as a Raider, because now he's going back to Seattle.
Yeah, he went back. They signed him. There's something wrong between Marshawn and the Raiders.
I don't know what kind of shape he's in either. I don't know if he's football shape or whether or not he will last, the course of time that they need him for. Who knows what his productivity will be.
Well, I think you have to give the man a chance to find out. He's got, look what he did today. He had great runs. He scored a touchdown. And
there you go.
Were it not for, I don't know if you saw the game or not, but were it not for.
No, I did.
Okay. Were it not for a very dumb situation leading to a delay of game call, he may have scored the touchdown that won the game for the Seahawks, and we'd still be talking about it. So instead, they had them in this package where they had, well, you saw it, I think. But I don't know what's going on with him and the Raiders. I originally thought that the Raiders were going to draft Josh Jacobs and then have a Lynch-Jacobs backfield, which I think would have been cool. But
yeah,
that didn't happen. And look, Marshawn sees that Father Time is creeping in. He wants to get involved in the rest of his life and investments, and so he's got this very exciting indoor football league that he's involved in that I think is going to do very well. It's got the Oakland Panthers team is a part of it. And he's got his image business, that's on Broadway in Oakland. I think he's going to have one in Vegas, right? So whatever happens, I mean, the Raiders, it's clear the Raiders didn't make room for him. And it's clear that they did it quietly out of respect for the man. And quietly means, maybe they paid him some extra money or something. Whatever the case, it didn't turn out that way. And hey, look, on the other hand, who's to say that had the Raiders made the playoffs, they would have called Marshawn Lynch themselves, right? So there's a lot of unknowns there. Let me let me go forward here in the comments. Black Lion Rob Iman's talking about the Broncos being sold this offseason. Rob Iman said that. Black Lion says, yeah, Jamal Mills, I don't see their name anywhere on the same time about UNLV. And then he says they said LA was best for the franchise, and we know how that turned out. Yeah, talking about the Raiders. John Marks says they will still say that BLS Oakland forever. Black Lion says facts. John Marks, no place better for the Raiders than Oakland. I agree. Patrick and Blackman writes, I heard the Raiders will play on natural and UNLV will play on field turf. Yeah, and that difference alone points to more delays because you got to make sure that field turf, that turf is out there growing, and you got to get it in place. And then not only that, folks, you have to make sure that that motorized system works. There's a lot of moving parts to the stadium that have to be done before they can even say with a straight face they're going to be ready to host a preseason game in August, which is what was written in the original schedule. Okay? So I cannot see that. I just given the person power that's out there, and you said yourself that not much had changed between March and now, and that points to one thing. They have had not a lot of people working on that thing. And I was talking to one of the Las Vegas whistleblower workers. He told me that part of it is, hey, look, they were telling people to go home for money reasons. All right? So there's some problems there.
Well, even back in March when I saw some of the crews working, I thought, being that it's spring, they're on the course to build in this sooner than later, that there'd be a lot more of a workforce out there, and there wasn't. So to me, even when I saw that in March, it seemed a little odd to have very few people working on such a large scale building project, because it seemed like it was scarce.
There's still steel that they have to add to that backside area over the tray. It's not just putting the panels over there, which aren't really glass. It's more like but the whole point is it's transparent. But they have to add additional steel, and that's a cost. And I'm wondering, okay, is that steel that's parked somewhere? Is that going to be subject to the same delay issues? What's going on with that steel? You know, again, there are problems that have to be addressed. Now, Derek Douglas says the World Turf will be natural. Rob Iman says Titans pull the upset. Eric Powell says Ravens versus Saints in Super Bowl. Ooh. Rob Iman says Bills win. Kenny G says in the AFC, I don't think anybody want to see Tennessee. I agree with you. Paul Garcia says, what happened to a lawsuit? I'll get to that in a second. Rob Iman says Raiders versus Titans and Chiefs and Bills in division. Derek Douglas says bait. Rob Iman says Saints win. Derek Douglas says bait versus Baltimore versus New Orleans is smart money. Rob Iman's, I agree. Rob Iman says Sea Chickens. I like that. The Sea Chickens. The Sea Chickens win in Philly and rematch against the Niners in the divisionals. The Sea Chickens. That's hilarious. I like that. That's hilarious. The Sea Chickens. The Sea Chickens. I gotta remember that.
Reverse it, you get chicken in the sea.
Hey, ha ha ha. There you go. John Akala says, so how much rent will Raiders pay in 2020 if they stay in Oakland? $10.5 million, which is still less than the money they're going to be paying in Las Vegas, which will be double that in terms of what they're going to be shelling out for that thing on an annual basis. Woo! And so you got Rob Iman says Breeze versus Rodgers in the divisionals, must-see TV. Agreed. Eric Powell says Saints beat Queens. The Queens. Black Lion says, not to mention all the fans in the NFL would get back having Kaepernick back in the league. Eric Powell says, NFL would lose more fans. I disagree. Oh, I really disagree with that, Eric. That's no way. Black Lion says, no way. Derek Douglas says, I don't think he wants to play anymore, nor could he play anymore. No, he can play. But I don't... Yeah, I don't think it's not him not wanting to play. I really do believe that he's trying to say, hey, look, I'm a brand, negotiate with me on my terms, not just yours. And he's right. Okay, and he's worth enough to do that. And for the NFL, again, to take somebody who's worth $2 billion to a franchise and treat them that way makes me wonder to what degree the NFL really wants to achieve success. I'm just saying that, okay? So, Kenny G says the rating is very high now out without Kaepernick. It'll be higher with him. Very high is one thing. Super high is something else. Can you imagine the ratings for the Kaepernick return game? Let's say the Seahawks had signed Kaepernick and then decided that they were going to play Kaepernick and Lynch, right? Which could still happen. It's the playoffs. They may say we need to sign Kaepernick as a backup. You never know, okay? Anything can happen. That would blow the roof off the NFL economics. It'd be huge. Okay? So, Cheese says the NFL is definitely holding CT issues. C. Griffin from the Vikings, I agree. And Derek Douglas says, I support what Kaepernick did. However, as a quarterback, he simply wasn't that good. He wasn't that bad either. Let's put it this way. He has an NFC championship ring to his credit. Let's not forget that. And so, Young Pharaoh, how you doing? Young Pharaoh writes, came into this conversation a little late. What's your opinion on the Raiders moving on from Carr? And if so, can you see Phillip Rivers playing a year with the silver and black? Ooh. Wow. Did you guys see Phillip Rivers cry? I felt sorry for Phil. I mean, he said he did everything that he tried to do. He did, you know. I wonder if I can find a clip for that because it's worth playing just to hear the passion of a man who really cares about his game product, you know, about what he's done, okay? Let me see here, Phillip Rivers. Here is Phillip Rivers. And let's see, videos. Here, okay, listen to this. All right. This is
and maybe it means an interception on fourth.
Here, listen to
I think
this.
it's that I can say I gave it everything I had. I mean, every week, you know. So, you know, and maybe it means an interception on 4th and 18 when you're down 10, because I don't care that it's going to say 2 interceptions. You know, I really don't. It's just like I ain't quitting. So I think that doing it with so many guys over 14 years and going to the locker room, win or lose, and I can say, "Dadgummit, we're short. We fell short, or we won." But shoot, I couldn't try it any harder. I think it's that I can say I gave it everything I had. I mean, every week.
That's what. That just makes me want to tear up again. When I first heard it, I wanted to cry for him because Phillip Rivers is a guy you want to like, and he's not somebody that is he's not somebody that comes off like I'm a special guy and you need to do this and everything else. All right, I've always hoped that he gets his ring because he has not been blessed to be on a team that has a championship defense, okay? Let's face it, the Chargers have never had that. And if you can match a championship defense with that offense, okay, then I think you're on to something, all right? I really do. But I really do. The question is, now you are asking, do I think that he winds up with the Raiders? I don't think that that's outside of the realm of possibility as a backup to Carr. The question is, would he want to accept that role? I don't know the answer to that question because I don't know Phil Rivers enough to speculate, and I haven't had the opportunity to ask him. And she says, what draft picks do Raiders get from Chicago? Get to that one. But I know, look, I could see possibly maybe a scenario where maybe the Chargers feel like, hey, there's this guy in Tampa named Jameis Winston who could be a really great quarterback for us. Let's pay him what he wants. I could see the Chargers doing that because, and you kind of heard what I thought was kind of a wild allusion to this, right? Jameis Winston is a younger Phil Rivers, okay? Um, and I think, unless the Buccaneers treat him with what he deserves, all right, I hope they do. Because I think Jameis has gotten a lot of bad advice. I know his agents. And I think, he's been victimized by a society that tells smart black folks to not be smart. And he's been a people pleaser, and he's tried to please the wrong people. And he's a youngster, okay, who made mistakes in college like we all do and through our lives. But look what he's done since then. He got married, bought a house, and he's a father. Okay? Beautiful baby boy, right? So he's on the right track. And, something else. He just came into, this is his first year in the Arian system. I think it would be completely stupid for them to just say, okay, we're going to move on and try somebody else. The guy's had a year in his system already. He didn't play and also ran. It wasn't just that he was 30 for 30, but he threw for over 5,000 yards. Okay? 5,000 yards. The interceptions were as much the product of Bruce Arians' rather antiquated design as they were any Winston. So Winston is in a spot. He is not going to change plays and change things because he doesn't have the latitude to do so. He doesn't want to completely rip things up because he wants to be the team player who they give the huge contract to. So they put him in this offense that is a mixture of high risk, okay, and high reward, and we've seen it. So you can't say the offense is high risk, high reward, and then blame him, right, for being a high risk, high reward quarterback in that system. That's what happened is the logical outcome of the way Bruce Arians' system is designed. You cannot find one game where they call one of those swing passes out of the backfield where the pass is done before the line of scrimmage, all right? A la Bill Walsh style, what some would call West Coast offense, in the Arian system. Everything is throwing deep downfield. You can see the DBs, they've watched the film with their coaches. The coaches are instructing them to hang back, watch Jameis' eyes, and read, and they'll hang back, and they'll just like vultures zoom in on those passes, and the patterns are predictable. That's the fault of Bruce Arians. So Bruce really needs to step it up and alter that offense. But I think to get rid of Jameis Winston after 1 year under his belt in that offense and not keep him with all of his pluses and tweak it is a huge mistake. I mean, it's ignorant. Let me put it that way. It's massively, massively ignorant. What are your thoughts, Joseph?
Well, I think you said it all. I mean, it's definitely, sorry, my phone got cut off there.
Oh, you okay?
Yeah. No, I'm okay. So can you reiterate that again so I can pick up where you left off? I'm sorry.
I was saying, what are your thoughts on the James? The question was, do I see Phil Rivers? And the question was, do I see Phil Rivers playing a year with a silver and black? And I couldn't quite see that, but then I was kind of riffing on it, and I kind of riffed my way into a possible Phil Rivers to Buccaneers versus Jameis Winston to San Diego, but I thought it would be stupid for the Bucs to do that. That's all.
Yeah, with Phil Rivers, I don't see him playing with the Raiders. I think he's a little past his prime, and I don't see that getting any better than what Derek Carr was able to do this season. Jameis Winston, I think, improved a lot. I think some of the things that you said, he needs to be in a system that's fit for him or suited for him. Whether or not Bruce has that capability of trying to set the right path for him, I think we've got to see, but I think Jameis Winston did a big improvement this year. And I think at the very least, it shows you what his possibilities are for the coming years.
Yeah, I completely agree. We got Young Pharaoh. I got that one. Thank you for it. And then he adds, please impeach Spanos and send my Chargers back to San Diego. Moving along, then he says, so it's 127. We're going to stop at about 10 minutes, 10 or 15. Black Lion says, exactly, and that's why the Raiders should have handled Antonio Brown the same way Oakland should have handled the Raiders. Treat the king accordingly. Yep. And, because, look, the Raiders Oakland is treating the A's like Oakland, from another perspective, should have treated the Raiders, because as I told Mayor Schaaf, make sure you come out of this clean. Don't give the Raiders any ammunition to say you didn't do A, B, and C. And she did give them a little bit of ammunition, okay? Even though the Raiders did not act in good faith with the city of Oakland or the county of Alameda. That is absolute. But did the city of Oakland under Mayor Schaaf handle its end of the deal cleanly? And the answer is, unfortunately, no. Hey, nobody listens to me. Anyway, and so Raider P says, please, Zen, Gunther should be fired, and Olsen as well. Right, but, I say right, but. Who do we replace them with? See, I'm more interested in systems and schemes. Okay? And so, did we make improvements under Gunther? Yes. But did we have horrible games under Gunther this year? Yes, we really did. But I think it's less a question of person and a matter of scheme and approach. And I have seen enough sloppy coaching to have my concerns, but I've seen change that I like the employment of a flex style of defense against the run. I think was very effective. It held the Broncos to, I think, 53 yards rushing or something like that, made under 100. And the Broncos as a team at 238 total offense. So look, they're headed in the right direction without question. They were better than the year before, but there were times when they were horrendously bad. And I think there needs to be a scheme evaluation also with injuries. It's hard to say with all the injuries they've had and the personal decisions they made that they went in with the best shot. I was not a fan of bringing in Bavontes Burfict. They were. I didn't think that was something that they should have done. They need to go young, quick, fast, smart, young linebackers, and they didn't do that. Gunther felt like he needed a quarterback, but he chose for his defense, but they chose the wrong one. Let's be honest. Now, I'm not defending and I'm not against the whole issue regarding his suspension. It's unfortunate, but it came with the territory, okay? And we just have to say that in the overall scheme of things, unfortunately, it's no surprise. Now the aspect of all this that worked out very, very well was Richie Incognito. See, overall, they thought they could tough their way into a playoff by having Richie Incognito and all these nasty guys that are the Raider image, right? I'll say this. I think that they have a wrong idea what the Raider image is. And the Raider image, you create guys that play tough. You don't necessarily go and trade them for them. But the toughness comes in the style of play you coach them to use. And I think that's what John misses. It's not that you go and you get a guy who had a dirty reputation someplace else. That's a wrong idea of the Raider image. And I think that's where they went wrong. Guys like Jack Tatum, Phil Villapiano, George Atkinson, they grew up playing the Raider 11 Angry Men bump and run style. That style produced their nastiness. It was the style that produced the Raider nastiness. It wasn't them being nasty. Okay? The nastiness came out of the style of play. So you don't bring in a guy and say, okay, you're going to be nasty. We're going to put you in a zone and sit back there and people are going to be throwing things around you. No. Put them in man for man. Or you train them to be real Raiders. Okay? So the reason why we had what we have saw on the field was because they didn't think about it the right way. They had the wrong idea what the Raider image is, and that's what got them into trouble, and that's what got us into trouble. So, continuing, and
Greg Olsen.
you wanna add to that, Joseph? Or
No, I was
disagree,
going to bring up Greg Olsen. I'm not a big fan of Greg Olsen. Now, in part, I question his schemes, but you got to consider the personnel that we had. We essentially didn't have any wideouts. We brought in Zane Jones. We brought in, who else did we bring in? The kid from the Packers. That didn't work out. And it seems like throughout the whole season, we're trying to fit in gaps that Antonio Brown has left.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
So as much as I'm not a big fan of Greg Olsen, I don't know if that was his fault. Because one thing I got personally sick of seeing throughout the season is Carr's dump off passes. 6 yards here, 5 yards here. But from a perspective of not having personnel, maybe that probably could have done. I saw a lot of opportunities for them to do something different. But, I don't know what your take is on Greg Olsen.
Well, it's not Greg. Greg is doing John Gruden's bidding. And so I don't, excuse me for a moment, I don't, medicine time. I don't put that on Greg because you have Greg, you have Johnny Morton, who was the wide receivers coach, or is the wide receivers coach, who was the offensive coordinator for the Jets a couple of years ago. I don't put that all on him. At the end of the day, it's John's decision. Now, as far as short passes and runs out and yak, what they call yards after the catch, I'm a big fan of that. I'm a big fan of understanding how to design plays of formation. Look at the play that I designed for John that featured Rico. That featured Rico on the wheel route and the fake handoff crossbuck. Okay, I'm a big believer in multiple receivers on one side moving in concert to produce the open receiver. All right, and and having it such that receiver, I mean wide open, not maybe open. I mean so wide open it's like, oh my God, how did that happen? All right, and so that receiver gets the ball at 5 or 10 or 15 yards downfield and runs the rest of the way. Great, because it doesn't mean that I have to have a quarterback with a super strong arm or anything. But more important, it means that, and this is what gets something that really chafes my hide, okay? And that is that I don't want my quarterback holding onto the ball longer than 1.21 seconds. I want my quarterback to get rid of the ball because we're in a league where the defensive backs are the fastest players on the field. Do you realize that? You're talking about guys that are running 4.3, 4.2, 4.1 40s, and they're on defense. Okay? You're talking about Montez Sweat, who's a defensive end. They have a stand-up, which is stupid. But he runs a 4.4 40. The dude is 6'5", 265 pounds. The best athletes are on defense, and you're asking for the offense to hold these guys out for a long time. That's nuts. So you got to get rid of the ball. You have to use space, okay? Space. And understand how to use space and formations, how to use formations to quite literally stretch a defense, shape a defense, so that you can achieve the certainty of the open receiver. That's the objective. That's my philosophy, okay? I don't know what Greg Olsen's philosophy is. I have some idea what John's philosophy is, but what I express to you is my offensive philosophy. You have to use a combination of pre-shifts, motion, exotic formations, and different types of huddle, standard huddle, sugar huddle, no huddle, to cause the defense to be in places it doesn't want to be. If you're not doing that with your offense, you can't win. And if you're not doing that with your offense, you're going to consistently whine about your personnel. All right? Okay, so got to keep reading these comments here. Derek Douglas says, really proved himself a nut job And he says has a serious mental issues, bipolar, as Mike is talking about Brown. Jorge Rojas, who's ready for Las Vegas 2020? Well, I'm not sure even the Raiders
No.
are. Are you ready, Joseph?
Oh man, I'm telling you, I don't think it's going to happen.
Okay. He doesn't think it's going to happen. And got a light on here. That means something. Anyway, I guess we're having a visitor. Are we having a visitor? Maybe not. Okay, thought we were having a visitor, folks, but not quite. Anyway, that is a sign that I need to wrap things up, though. It's getting a little late. So, because we have a number of things we got to do around here, house repairs wise, At any rate, so I'm going to get these comments. There says, Young Pharaoh agreed. Black Lion says, Beast Mode, don't like what Davis is doing in Oakland and what Oakland has done to themselves. Patrick M. Blackman says, Davis, Gruden, and Mayock knows no Marshawn has too much of a strong personality for the Raiders. Eric Powell says, all the talent in the world, what a shame. Black Lion says, let the Raiders need all the strong personalities they can get. Derek Douglas says, Carr will be starting in Las Vegas. Would like to see Raiders get Gannon as a coach. Jesus Morris says, I want the Raiders to get from Brady. I don't understand that one. The Raider P says, forget that, don't want Cheeto Brady. Eric Powell says, Jesus, what are you smoking, man? I love that. Derek Douglas says, that's funny. Derek Douglas says, no Cam Newton, the outlet Superman. And Legalized Ranch says, do you think Rex Ryan will be the Browns head coach? No, I'm not sure about that one. Vito says, you train them to be real riders. And John Marks says, new NFL team, the Oakland Marauders. Wyatt Abbott says, the $85 million to Alameda County from A's to pay for their portion of the remaining bond means the tax that it pays will be removed to correct it. If 30 years for 95 expansion shouldn't be much left. Ryan Abbott, no, it doesn't mean. It means that, it's not a tax. It's what's going on is that the money that was paid for the bond comes from the general funds of both the city of Oakland and the county of Alameda. So the county would basically be relaxed, if you will, or removed of its obligation for any future payments, okay? And Thomas Lopez says, do you think John Gruden and the Raiders will have a better record next year? And will the playoffs be our Super Bowl contenders next year? That depends on the draft, okay? That depends on the draft. That depends on the changes they make schematically, offensively, and defensively, all right? I'm one for scheme, not personnel. So we'll see. Derek, I can tell you what I think they need to do. I think I've done that. Derek Douglas says, where would they play? 32 Assassin, how you doing? 32 Assassin says, this has to be inside the player and the attitude, style of play, and toughness was fostered and honed by the coaches. That attitude did come from the top. He's right, talking about the Raider image. Vito Vitin says, when the Raiders leave to Vegas, the whole mystique dies in Oakland. I agree with you. That no one's gonna know the Raiders in Vegas. Okay. Derek Douglas says, no Cam Newton. He calls him a gutless Superman. Legalized Ranch says, do you think Rick, I answered that one. And Black Lion says, going for 2 today was the most aggressive thing we did all year, and that's why we failed. Ryan Abbott says, recently GPS in the football has come up with like tennis, they have GPS in the ball. Heard quarterbacks are against it because they claim it will affect the ball. That's BS, I think. GPS in the ball would be a fix. I have to research that. I don't quite know about that. And I want to go, okay, I've got through all of your comments. Now I've got through all your comments. Let me now share with you before I close the one thing you all may have been waiting for, and that is this whole Las Vegas Stadium cover-up. And that is something that was advanced by Jedi Rich. And I'll show you the blog. Okay, it's this. It's called This Is One Badass Stadium. All right. December 26th. All right. Patrick and Blackman says Riverboat Bronford defensive coordinator. And Ron Rivera is going to get a head coaching job. All right, hold on. And he says that he got this photograph. This is what Jedi Rich and Jedi Joy are these bloggers and vloggers who live in Las Vegas. Okay, and they have branded themselves unofficial Las Vegas stadium photographers, even though they said they're official, but I digress. And then it says, here's why the roof is not raising at Alliance Stadium. And let me maybe play this. I can't show it, but let me play at least part of what they're saying. They, hold on a second. I got to not play it because they have a tendency to use music that they don't care about in terms of copyright, but I do because I don't need that headache. So I'm not going to play that video, all right? Let me read what they wrote. And this was what they wrote, okay? Where is this thing, all right? This is on the 12/20, and then 12/16, bolts breaking and roof raising delay at Allegiant Stadium. It says, Don Webb and the Las Vegas Review-Journal finally admitted, and I can show you this part, okay? Look at this. Boom. Jedi Rich Studios, that's JediRich.com stadium updates, okay? There you go, all right? He says, right, he goes, look, what is disturbing is that it appears that Mitch Akers and Rick Vallata of the Las Vegas Review-Journal withheld valuable information to intentionally keep this from the season ticket buyers. The Review-Journal was purchased by Sheldon Adelson of the Las Vegas Venetian and Sands Corporation, okay? And so they have this delay, stadium roof delay list. It says timeline of what could have caused the roof raising delay at the Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, all right? And they say that the Jedi have been keeping a journal of the Review Journal. We created timeline of events and compared them to the published headlines. It is apparent that they knew about the roof raising issue before the November 15th season ticket payments were due. Ooh. Further, they, talking about the Review Journal's Akers and Vallata, did not publish any article regarding a roof delay or bolts breaking until after the buyers made their initial payments. Oh, that's a deep allegation. Then it writes, why would a major newspaper print 3 missed deadlines with no explanation? And then it says Mitch Akers from the Las Vegas Review-Journal wrote that the roof was originally scheduled to be lifted by the end of October after a series of denying any sort of delays. Mitch finally noted the delay on October 18th, the Monday after the Friday 15th. Season ticket payments were due on 15th. And then they wrote they say noted delay in the cable roof system raise originally slated for November 10th completion. Actually, that's wrong. The original cable net roof was supposed to be raised August 8th. Okay. They're way behind. He says offset by being ahead of other tasks like lower bowl and stadiums. They don't understand what all that means, okay? They just write what they tell them, okay? Now, further, when social media reports began bubbling October 2nd about a roof-raising delay, Mick spent the next 2 days smearing any blogger or tweeter who had a following. Mick would troll their accounts and accuse them of spreading fake news. I blocked him, so he didn't bother me. If you're new to social media, when that happens, when a verified journalist does that, is this: the blogger or tweeter gets bullied and abused by the verified journalist's vicious followers. Mick and Rick are verified journalists, and their following will support anything they say. This form of bullying and intimidation should not be allowed from verified journalists with a blue check mark. Okay? So there it all is this. Can you read the rest of it in full? All right, but that's their allegation. And that's a deep thing that they're blaming the Review Journal for doing. I know that the Review Journal has engaged in a smear campaign against me that was stopped by the News 3 Las Vegas people, television, which I thank them. And so, at any rate, I'll pick this up more, but I'm going to close this down right now. As it's holding to 2:00 in the East. You have any closing thoughts you want to add, Joseph? Thank you for participating.
Oh, no, I appreciate it. I just wanted to wish everybody Happy New Year. I'm sure we'll talk again before then, but it was a good Raiders season despite the loss today, and I do look forward to next season. Hopefully, we pull up some miracles in the draft.
Yeah, and I'll be back tomorrow, 4 o'clock Eastern. My sturdy Golden Bear of California take on the Illini of Illinois, coached by Lovie Smith. I predict the Cal win. Go Bears. Go Bears. Hey, thanks, everybody. And I'll see you tomorrow night. We don't have Monday Night Football tomorrow night, do we? That's it. It's all done. Right?
Yep, I believe so.
Oh, that's too bad. Okay, so we'll have an end of the we'll have a discussion of, maybe I should give out some awards, but I have an announcement tomorrow because Zenny 62 Media becomes official tomorrow. Stay tuned, folks. All right. And or as John Marks would say, watch horror films, keep America strong. All right. Bye, everybody. Hey, Joseph, stick around for a second.
Okay.
Happy New Year, everybody. Talk to you tomorrow. I'll see you. Go Bears.